Welcome back to Draven's Den. I'm your history guy, Stan Miles. Today's show will be a little longer to catch you up from last Friday when I had Mandy Curo on the show, diving deep into her family history and giving us the privilege of getting to know her grandfather, Charlie Curo. And I'd like to thank her again for that. Just to let you guys know that I'll be attending a funeral this week, which will take me out of the studio on Friday. So next Monday will be another extended episode like this one. With that said, let's kick the tires and light the fires on today's show, highlighting some of the events that occurred from February 24th to March 2nd. There are weeks in history that feel transitional, like the world is stretching before it makes a decision. Late February and early March is one of those stretches. Revolutions begin. Wars shift direction. Presidents are born. Dictators fall. Awards are handed out. And somewhere in all of it, someone invents duct tape and silently saves humanity. This week is proof that history does not wait for the calendar to reset. It just keeps moving. This is Draven's Den. History is not just national. It is personal. If your family has a story, military service, migration, generational turning points, community leadership, reach out. The Family Thread series exists to preserve those voices. And speaking of which, if you have not yet listened to the powerful conversation with Mandy Curo about her grandfather, Charlie Curo, from Capitan Grande to Verona, from tribal continuity to service connected to Colonel Doolittle's command in World War II, that episode is live now. It is legacy. It is lived history, and it deserves your time. Let's roll into history on February 24th, 1803. The United States Supreme Court issued its decision in Marbury v. Madison. Chief Justice John Marshall established the principle of judicial review, the power of the court to declare laws unconstitutional. In one ruling, the Supreme Court quietly gave itself long-term influence over American governance. That is what we call a strategic move. No marching bands, no fireworks, just constitutional authority that still shapes law today. In 1868, the U.S. House of Representatives voted 126 to 47 to impeach President Andrew Johnson, marking the first time a sitting president faced such action. The primary charge was his violation of the Tenure of Office Act, following his attempted removal of Secretary of War Edwin Stanton. It was the first impeachment of a U.S. president. He would ultimately be acquitted by one vote in the Senate. One vote. History sometimes turns on margins thinner than a sheet of paper. 1942. The event is known as the Battle of Los Angeles, or the Great Los Angeles Air Raid, a massive anti-aircraft barrage unleashed on the night of February 24th into the 25th, after war nerves and an unidentified object triggered a false alarm of a Japanese attack. Despite firing over 1,400 artillery shells into the sky, no enemy aircraft were ever found, though the ensuing blackout and chaos resulted in 5 civilian deaths. The alien theory is that the unidentified object fired upon was of alien origin, conducting a reconnaissance mission, citing its apparent immunity to the artillery fire and its ability to hover silently. This belief is primarily anchored in a famous, heavily retouched photograph published by the Los Angeles Times, which appeared to show a solid saucer-shaped object trapped in the convergence of searchlight beams. Proof that fear in wartime can sometimes move faster than facts. How our I defines itself. Courts claim authority. Presidents are challenged. And sometimes entire cities fire at the sky. History reminds us calm matters. February 25th. 1870. Hiram Rhodes Revels, a Republican in Mississippi, became the first African American to be sworn into the United States Senate. In a moment of profound historical irony, Revels filled the Mississippi seat that had been vacated 9 years earlier by Jefferson Davis to become the president of the Confederacy. Reconstruction was still unfolding. The country was still healing from Civil War. And yet, progress, however fragile, was moving. Nashville, Tennessee was captured by Union forces on February 25, 1862, when General Don Carlos Buell accepted the city's surrender following the collapse of Confederate defenses at Fort Donelson. As the first Confederate state capital to fall, its capture secured a vital supply hub for the Union Army and marked a strategic turning point in the Western Theater. 1964. Cassius Clay achieved one of the greatest upsets in sports history by defeating the heavily favored champion Sonny Liston via a technical knockout, when Liston refused to answer the bell for the 7th round. Shortly after, he announced he had joined the Nation of Islam and would take the name Muhammad Ali. Confidence, conviction, cultural shift. Float like a butterfly, shake the status quo. Representation matters. Identity matters. And sometimes the loudest voice in the room changes history. February 26, 1919. President Woodrow Wilson signed the Grand Canyon National Park Act, officially establishing the site as the 17th U.S. National Park. This legislation replaced the 1908 National Monument designation, providing higher level protection for the 1,217,262 acre Arizona landmark. Some things are preserved not because they're useful, but because they are magnificent. On February 26, 1993, at 12:18 p.m., a group of terrorists detonated a 1,200-pound truck bomb in the underground parking garage of the World Trade Center's North Tower. The explosion created a massive crater, 150 feet wide and several stories deep, and caused an 11-hour evacuation of approximately 50,000 people from the complex. It was a warning sign of vulnerabilities to come. History does not always shout. Sometimes it foreshadows. Preserve what is beautiful. Pay attention to what is fragile. On February 27, 1827, a group of masked and costumed students in New Orleans held what is considered the city's first recorded Mardi Gras street celebration. Inspired by their time studying in Paris, these students, many of whom were the sons of wealthy planters, donned jester costumes and masks to dance through the streets, successfully reviving a French tradition that had been suppressed under previous Spanish rule. Proof that sometimes history is influenced by students who study abroad. On February 27, 1900, representatives from trade unions, the Independent Labor Party, the Fabian Society, and the Social Democratic Federation met at Memorial Hall on Farringdon Street to establish the Labor Representation Committee, or the LRC. The Congressional Memorial Hall in London was the site of the historic conference. 129 delegates passed a motion to create a distinct labor group in Parliament, laying the foundation for the modern Labor Party. Political parties begin as movements. Movements begin as conversations. Tradition and politics both start with gathering people and saying, we could do this differently. Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen is a television film that served as the series finale of the American television series MASH. The 2.5-hour episode first aired on CBS on February 28, 1983, ending the series. The episode was written by 8 collaborators, including series star Alan Alda, who also directed. Over 100 million viewers tuned in, including myself. It remains one of the most watched television broadcasts in American history. A show about war, that used humor to survive it. That feels appropriate. Even in heavy times, people crave stories, especially the ones that help them process reality. On March 1st, 1872, President Ulysses S. Grant signed the Yellowstone National Park Protection Act into law, establishing the 2.2 million acre Wyoming, Montana, and Idaho wilderness as the world's first national park. This landmark legislation set aside the land to protect its unique geothermal features and wildlife for public enjoyment. The idea that land could belong to everyone, preserved for future generations, was revolutionary. On March 1st, 1932, Charles Augustus Lindbergh Jr., the 20-month-old son of world-famous aviator Charles Lindbergh and Anne Morrow Lindbergh, was kidnapped from his second-floor nursery in Hopewell, New Jersey. Dubbed the crime of the century, the abduction triggered a mass national investigation and remains one of the most high-profile cases in American history. Tragedy can unite public attention in a second. Innovation soars, crime shocks, the public never looks away. On March 2nd, 1836, 59 delegates at Washington on the Brazos unanimously signed the Texas Declaration of Independence, officially creating the Republic of Texas and separating from Mexico. Drafted by George C. Childress, the document cited grievances against the Mexican government and was finalized during a 17-day convention. Revolution formalized in ink. On March 2nd, 1962, Wilt Chamberlain set the NBA single-game scoring record with 100 points in the Philadelphia Warriors' 169-147 victory over the New York Knicks at Hershey Sports Arena in Pennsylvania. He achieved this mark by shooting 36 of 63 from the field and 28 of 32 from the free throw line, playing all 48 minutes of the game. 100 points in one game. Some records are not broken. They are admired from a distance. Declaration changed borders. Performances change record books. Both require belief that something bigger is possible. February 24th through March 2nd reminds us, power defines itself. Movements organize. Land is preserved. Records are set. Nations declare independence. History does not pause at the end of the month. It rolls forward. Quietly, sometimes. Explosively, other times. And always, always through people. This is Draven's Den. Stay curious. And don't forget to send your family stories to dravensden@gmail.com. Talk to you next time.